All right. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Farm Plug Philosophy. I will be your farm plug of the day, and I'm Kandeaux, the farm plug. The pillars of Farm Plug are educate, thrive, and connect. And that's exactly what we're going to do today, right? So I know initially people are probably like, what's a farm plug? What is this? What is the philosophy? So before we even go anywhere, right, I'm going to just tell you outright what a farm plug is. A farm plug is anybody who knows how to plug into resources that will help people to develop sustainable, regenerative communities, right? And so to make it even more direct, the farm plug philosophy is an intersectional approach to holistic development of regenerative communities, right? So it's a lot of words in there. So I definitely encourage you guys to, grab a little pen and some paper because we're going to be dropping a whole bunch of little gems in here on how to not only get in tune with the agricultural movement or the local food system near you, that you're already actually a part of and that you actually contribute to and make up, because as consumers we are so important. But we're going to be diving into some really, really, really good conversation when we get to our panel. So real quick, I'm just going to give you guys an outline of what we're going to be talking about today. So again, this is just our introduction. I'm going to give you all a background about who I am, so you know that Kandeaux the Farm Plug is not just a random stranger, right? I'm somebody that, again, I'm a farm plug. So I don't consider myself a farmer because I went to school for agriculture, but I have not necessarily, and it is something that my family has done ancestrally, but it's not something that I've been doing for the majority of my life at this point. So my job is really to be a steward of the land and to bring dignity back to the fields and to people of color and the Black people, indigenous people that do this earth work. And we're going to talk about a really, really big problem and how Farm Plug is the solution. And then we're going to hop in to some really good conversation with two farm plugs that are making major waves and having some super duper impacts in the city of Chicago right now. So again, I want to thank you all for your interest. And I really, really want y'all to sit down, buckle in, right? Put on your farming pants, put on your straw hat, whatever a farmer, put on your New York cap, wherever you from, wherever you at. Definitely shout out to the city of Chicago. Shout out to Link Up Chicago for really, really playing a major role in facilitating this conversation and for inviting me to do this panel. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm interested to see. I really, really hope you all definitely interact in the chat. Put your Instagram, put your Twitter, put your Facebook so that we can connect after this, right? We definitely want to link up. We want to take whenever we can, right? Whenever it's safe for everyone to link up. We don't want this type of information to just fall by the wayside, right? So let's get into it. Who am I? Right? I am Kandeaux the Farm Plug, right? Candace Clark, but most of the world knows me as Kandeaux the Farm Plug. I graduated from one of the last Black boarding schools in the nation, which is the Piney Woods School in Piney Woods, Mississippi. Head, heart, and hands. That place has laid a really big foundation in my life, and so I'll touch on that later on. But everywhere that I went has really contributed to who I am today and what Farm Plug means. So I am also a graduate of Tuskegee University with my bachelor's of science in agricultural business with a concentration in sustainability and a minor in international relations. So you see that is a statue of Booker T. Washington handing me my well-earned degree with my pose of victory. And the other picture of me that's actually me in Costa Rica, where I went to get my master's. So my master's program is from the American University and the United Nations University for Peace. So I have two masters. One is in natural resources and the other one is in sustainable development and policy. And I'm currently back at Tuskegee University in a PhD program where I am doing an integrative development and public policy research on agricultural communication. So we're going to hop more into that. But the Farm Plug philosophy is really a deeper look. It's kind of like the edited version of what this long drawn out dissertation process is going to be. So we'll touch on that later. But a big pillar of being a farm plug is following your dreams, right? Really, really figuring out what the world needs and how you can be that solution for the world, right? So we're talking about the world, we're talking about farming, all of these things, but what do these actually have to do with you, right? Or right now? So with this picture, it's showing an unusual drop in nitrogen oxide levels. So pretty much greenhouse gases are going down due to COVID-19. So if you look at this picture, it's showing you where all that yellow is. Oh, I was trying to. Okay, that didn't work. But pretty much it's showing you how over the last, if you see the date, so from the first month of 2020 to the second month of 2020, you can see how people not being outside has affected China and their smog rates and just what the climate looks like over there, right? And so for those who do not believe in climate change, that's cool, but it's really not something you can believe in, right? We have numbers, there's real science, there's real data out there that shows that within this anthropocentric era, right? And Anthropocene is a word that just means really post-industrial era, right? So ever since the Industrial Revolution, the climate of the earth has been warming up. But what does that actually mean? It means rising temperatures. It means more extreme weather, rising sea levels, increasing levels of carbon dioxide. These are all things, that's just the immediate reactions from hotter climates, worse thunderstorms, worse natural disasters, and again with the sea level. So we see how this affects air pollution, right? It affects increasing allergens. And at a time with COVID, people are sneezing all over the place, right? This is like the worst time. It feels like one of the worst times that for something like this to be happening, especially when we have so much technology. So one can only ask, right? We can't depend on people outside of ourselves to save us, right? We have to go out. We have to be courageous enough to develop the endurance, the curiosity, and educate ourselves to be able to do what we need to do for our community, right? So understanding climate change, understanding how all of these things look like forced migration, civil conflict, mental health impacts, malnutrition. How do all of these things come together and what can we actually do about them, right? Well, you can become a farm plug, right? And so remember when we said with farm plug, there were 3 pillars. Educate. I want you to just in your brain say it to yourself. Educate, thrive, and connect. Educate, thrive, and connect. So when we talk about education, though, it has to be understood that it needs to be put in a context, right? So this is a picture of George Washington Carver and Henry Ford. And a lot of people may not be familiar, but, George Washington Carver was working on projects with hemp long before it was legalized, and that him and Henry Ford were talking about, how soybeans and how not depending on petroleum and oil-based products, these are all things that George Washington Carver's curiosity led him to ask questions around, right? So when we talk about education, it has to be based on curiosity. It has to be relevant. You have to actually want to know what you're talking about. And what's a good way to know what, to increase and to get that innovation sparked? It's understanding the connection of food, fiber, and people. So food being what we eat, fiber being the clothes that we wear, and people being the connection that we all have to these things and how it connects us to each other. So once we understand the way and the role that not only food cultivation, but natural resource cultivation plays into our everyday lives, we then begin to shape education in a way that is more relevant. And that means more people would be interested, which then means we would have I'm not even going to go there, but better rates of education. And especially when it's something that resonates with you that you're actually interested in. The second pillar of Farm Plug is to thrive, right? And this is different parts of my life that have definitely contributed to this philosophy. And so here we have a picture of Booker T. Washington, who is the founder of Tuskegee University. And it says, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. And on the seal of Tuskegee University, our motto is knowledge, leadership, and service, right? So once you educate yourself, once you get this knowledge, you then have to be willing to set yourself apart. And that's what it means to be a leader. That's what it means to be a farm plug. We're out here talking about, land ownership. We're talking about big pharmaceutical companies. We're talking about all of the things that need to be talked about in the most critical times to talk about them. But we're not only talking about them, we're willing to go out above and beyond to serve our community, to find out what our community actually needs. And so when we talk about the needs of a community, and we'll get into that later on as well, there's a woman by the name of Adrienne Marie Brown, and she has a book called Pleasure Activism, which is about learning what it means to be satisfiable, to generate from within and from between us an abundance from which we all can have enough. So when we think about food, right, with COVID-19 and we go to the grocery store and we don't see anything on the shelves, what state of mind does that put us in as a community of people? Whatever your community is, how does your community look when there's no food on the shelves? Right. And so we have to put ourselves in this mindset of thriving, not just surviving. It's one thing to survive. It's another thing to thrive. It's another thing to understand that there's more than enough resources to go around if only we're willing to educate ourselves and cultivate the skills to actually be able to go out and contribute to whatever the issue at hand is. And the final pillar is connect, right? So again, I know you all heard me mention head, heart, and hands. And so for those who aren't familiar with Fannie Lou Hamer, she is one of the pioneers in the civil rights movement, especially when it comes down to cooperative economics, cooperative farming techniques. And she was so instrumental as a female, a Black woman leader in the civil rights movement. She used her voice in a way that, she sang songs and was able to move people. And a lot of those songs came from the songs that she was singing when she was in the field as a sharecropper. And a lot of her motivation for being able to stand up and speak out and connect with other people to the struggles that so many people all over the country were having was because of her practices in the field, right? Her practice and her time being a farmer. And just the way she was able to take some pigs and flip them into a whole operation that was feeding families. It was a whole community, Freedom Farm in Mississippi, that was created. And so once we have all of these different elements, we then have to take time to connect not only with ourselves, but to our family members, right? Because if you live in an island, what good is knowledge if you don't apply it? And what good is it if you can't share it and give it to the next person? So once you get your head straight, you got to align your heart with what you're doing. And once you have those two things together, then you can make your hands work. And those three words are from the Piney Woods School. And so a little history about the Piney Woods School is that, again, it was founded in Piney Woods, Mississippi, but it was founded by a man named Lawrence C. Jones. And Lawrence C. Jones actually got the land donated to him from a lynch mob. He was actually in the process, they were going to hang him, and they asked him, do you have any final words? And by the end of that speech, they had ended up donating a bunch of land to him. And so understanding how you can, with your words and being so intent and so on point with your own contribution to how you can serve. Once you understand how you can serve, there's really nothing that you can't do. And everything in the universe kind of aligns to get you to these things that you need. And so it's kind of like, what do all these things have to do with climate change in a way, right? And people are like, what does climate change have to do with the end of the world? Well, how does that connect to COVID, right? Think global, act local. Your food system is a direct way. And by food system, I mean the way that you spend your money and the way that you choose to nourish yourself. All of those things, who you choose to support. Do you go to the grocery store? Do you go to Walmart? Do you go to farmers markets? Do you buy from small farms? Do you buy from big farms? Do you buy from monoculture, intensive agriculture? Are you shopping organically? Do you shop with small farmers who may not be organic but are natural in the way that they do these things? All of these questions contribute to the food system. And what happens to us in the United States affects the food system on an international scale. So from the local farming and food system production, you see the little truck here at the top, and that truck is like carrying food, and that contributes to global crop production, right? So what we grow here ends up on the global market, and that affects what other people grow, because that affects other markets and the global prices. And then when you go to Walmart and you're like, oh my God, why do eggs cost so much? It's because of what's going on the whole market. And then automatically you're like, oh my God, these eggs cost so much and I have to buy them. How do I afford these eggs? All of these things come together in the grand scheme of the food system. And so when you look at climate change, development, policy, nutrition, what does the earth look like? What does your community look like when there is no food on the shelf? What does COVID mean? What does community mean, right? And so right now, I'm super excited. I'm going to wrap up my piece because This panel that we have is so dynamic. And on the panel, we have Representative Sonya Harper. She's been a community activist on Chicago's South Side since she was 16 years old. After spending more than a decade as a television news reporter and producer seeking to expose the root causes to gun violence and other ills that she and her neighbors so often experienced, she decided to give up her career in journalism in order to educate, organize, and fight for the future of her community. Sonya's passions include promoting community, economic development, and civic engagement in an effort to create more peaceful and prosperous neighborhoods. Because of Harper's work in passing healthy food access related legislation, the state also now has to track and report the locations of food deserts throughout the state, and another law requires all schools in Illinois to test for lead in their drinking water. I'm not even done with her bio, y'all. Representative Harper is also responsible for legislation that created a statewide task force developed for opportunities for disconnected youth who are jobless and out of school, as well as the nation's most equitable cannabis legislation to date. All right? So, man, right now, and she resides in West Inglewood with her 10-year-old daughter and is a member of the faith community of St. Sabina. Our second panelist is Anton Seals, the lead steward of Grow Greater Inglewood. He's an organizer, educator, community connector, filmmaker, and entrepreneur. He wears all of these hats to the T, y'all, to the T. Anton's work has been dedicated to service and active engagement through the use of media arts, community organizing, and empowerment to dismantle oppressive systems impacting divested and oppressed communities. Anton is the lead steward of Grow Greater Inglewood, a social enterprise focusing on building an equitable and resilient local food system that fosters protections of vacant land in divested communities and focuses on connecting those residents with community wealth building opportunity. So without further introduction, this conversation is going to be so dope, and I'm so happy and I'm so thankful for these two, and let's get right into it. Oh.